KULR stock made a move today after posting solid revenue growth and stronger margins. We traded it live this morning and we even held it through the earnings. Yeah, a little riskier than usual, definitely, but it worked out and it's a smaller position, ended up locking in about $150 profit. If you want to see how I played it and catch future trades live, it's the second link in the description. Now let's take a look here. We're looking at KULR stock. It recovered about 8.6% today. You can see over here on the financials side of things that they just reported revenue increased by 44% to 3.37 million from the same quarterly period of the prior year. So 44% year over year. Operating loss decreased by about 29% from the same quarterly period year over year. So if you look at the companies, they had 29 million in cash as of December 31st, 2024, compared to the 1.2 million as of December 2023. So they have a lot more cash. Their gross margin was 64% in the quarter ended in 2024 compared to 29% the same quarterly period of the prior year. So there's a couple things that led to them beating their earnings and doing well. You could see they have the KULR Technology awarded a key defense contract for leading missile programs. So they have a phase change material, heat sink for major missile programs. We know that they work with carbon composite makeup for batteries as well as other tech for, in this case, missile electronic systems. They were also awarded that US Navy contract for high temperature internal circuit cells, and that's one that did well for them. Also, the KULR Zero Vibe solution. This is part of, it launched on the NVIDIA Jetson Edge AI platform. So a couple things there. Also, they expanded their Bitcoin holdings. Average purchase price of $88,000. It's good to see that. That was just $5 million. But their overall average, I believe, is around $98,000. So that's actually not full weighted average for their entire position. That's just the recent purchase that they made. So keep that in mind. They still are down a little bit. They increased their Bitcoin holdings to 65 million and said that they plan to basically demonstrate 90% of surplus cash going to Bitcoin. And they were at around $4.80. They recently sold down, but this is a slight recovery. Some people are saying it's done, but even in the last 6 months, it's up 420%. So the stock has seen its growth. You could call us a pullback or what have you, but after seeing this earnings, things don't look too bad for the company. So again, we're holding it here. We're up about $175 profit off of a very small position of just about, I think, $1,500. So yeah, over 10% return in a matter of hours. And again, riskier than we like to play, but now this kind of plays into our trend a little bit better. So we had this trend line here. If we pull up the right orange one there, that we were saying, hey, maybe it does something similar to this. Okay, so kind of maybe starts a trend here. It did oversell a little bit right here around earnings, but this was the trend we're anticipating. So it's possible we see a break above $2. I could see something like that happen. It has been consolidating a little bit from left to right recently, but essentially this is the trend we're saying we're catching early. So this morning, right at market open, you can see this is where it sold down, and we bought right here at $1.54 before it sold off a little bit, and then we took a little risk there, and it's up about $165 profit so far. Not enough to bring the portfolio fully green because we did have some other positions. NVIDIA was down, CTM stock is down a little bit. So that's just part of the direction of the market today, and that's okay. Now, the other thing that a lot of people don't realize about KULR stock, while it's up 10%, and that's quite nice, the reported earnings are also a good key. You also have to look at their recent Bitcoin allocation. You can see that that's a big focus in their company, and that puts a little bit of an edge on investors around if that's the best thing to do with their spare cash. But I'd say long term, it could make sense. It's just one of those things that obviously they want to capitalize on the hype. Some companies that have terrible financials, bad financials, not a good company overall. Not this one, but I'm just saying there's a lot of companies that have basically garbage financials and decide to make a big announcement about how they're allocating their money into Bitcoin. And it helps maybe with some short-term hype. I mean, we just saw it with GME, GameStop. They're like, we're putting money into Bitcoin. And it's fine if it's, maybe actually based in a long-term strategy and you're not going to dilute investors as a result. So that's something to consider. But it has played, basically, it's acted as a hold for the company. You can see some of their battery tech. They recently updated their website significantly. You can see some of their partnerships. One of them is with NASA. So they provide batteries to NASA. And also Lockheed Martin is one of their customers. You also can see Department of Transportation as well as Federal Aviation. The reality is when you look at the company's news and you take a look at they just reported their financial results. The main thing you're looking at is, are they continuing to get these contracts with companies like NASA or companies like U.S. military with Navy, for example, or even that rideshare mission with SpaceX. You have to watch those closely and see if they continue to get those contracts. One thing about their services, when you check out their services, they have their NASA WI037A cell screening. They got cell cycling here, as well as module cycling. So they work with batteries down to the cellular level. Just keep that in mind. Abuse testing and calorimetry. So basically, how do you test these? We got to make sure that if you're putting out services for, let's say, space, there's going to be extreme temperatures. So you can see this is a test. Calorimetry is a critical technique for studying thermal runaway in lithium-ion cells by precisely measuring the heat generation, temperature rise, and energy release during failure events. They also talk about the heat generation here for extended volume bomb calorimetry, as well as some other lithium-ion optimizations. You got the fiber thermal interface. You got the cathodes that they're working on, so using carbon fiber velvet to generate powerful electron pulses by field emissions. So you could take a look at some of their articles here. This is their 100 series. It gets pretty techy, and this is their KULR 1 battery system variations. They're constructed with a passive propagation resistant and flame arresting design using NASA screened lithium-ion cells. They have some tests that they release. They also have some descriptions of their products. So when we look at the three things for KULR stock, there's first, the news looks fairly good. Their developments seem pretty good, and the financials came in okay. The thing that we're looking at now is the overall direction of KULR. When you look at the direction, we're saying this is a trend that could potentially break up above this $2 range. It will face a resistance right here at $2, no doubt about it. And it's actually going to face some resistance sooner than that at about $1.75 that we could see it's struggling to break above right now. But ultimately what we're looking at is a shorter term recovery that we might play in this level. That would be about a 20 to 25% increase. It's holding just above that 200-day moving average, which would indicate more bullish momentum. If we get more confirmation up to that $2 range, and then we see maybe a recovery into this level of above $2, then we're looking at consolidation that we've seen in the past between $2 and about $2.80, which in that case would be about a 50% increase from current prices. Now, let's say they have a really good quarter here, and Bitcoin goes up, and maybe they announce that it's not just a rideshare mission that they're paying for, right? They pay SpaceX to launch batteries. They aren't in a partnership, very, very clear to know. They're not in a partnership per se or a contract that they're getting money from SpaceX. They're paying SpaceX to launch their batteries into space. So let's say that turns into something more than not just paying SpaceX, but they actually get them as a customer. Well, then we can definitely see them get into that $600 million market cap to maybe even up to a billion, depending on what the contract size is, and definitely could see a recovery in that case, if that were to happen. It has not happened yet, but if that catalyst happens, then maybe we see it get back to previous highs in this $5 range. The long term in the direction they're going seems to be in the right direction. The biggest issue I hear all the time is, Will, how can you cover this stock? They buy Bitcoin. Why would you cover stock? They buy Bitcoin. Personally, I've looked at Bitcoin. I'm sure a lot of you have. If you have, we even cover Bitcoin every once in a while. And I can tell you that if you would have tried to buy a house about 5 years ago, it would have been 94% harder today for you if you would have bought it with cash versus Bitcoin. That's right. It's 94% easier to buy a house today with Bitcoin if you would have held Bitcoin as opposed to cash. So Bitcoin is appreciating not just faster than inflation and outweighing inflation, but it's also appreciating more than the overall market. So if you're looking at the last 10 years and you're saying, where's the best place by asset class to put cash so that we can sustain some of the growth in our business, Bitcoin legitimately, based on the past 10 years, would indicate that it's going to have returns that would be higher than that of putting the market just holding cash, putting it in gold, or putting it in the market. So that's why they are buying Bitcoin. And some people say you shouldn't buy Bitcoin with money that you can't afford to lose. The Michael Saylor strategy, and Michael Moe, the CEO of this company, met with Michael Saylor before doing this. Their strategy is, whether you like it or not, is you should only buy Bitcoin with money that you don't want to lose. That's their take. That cash should only be held if you want to lose it. And that if you want to keep your cash, buy Bitcoin because it will hold its value. That's their perspective. And that's, I can, understand why that's their perspective. But at the same time, whether you like it or not, that's what they're doing. Whether it plays out good for the company in the long term, that's up for the market to decide. So we'll see how it goes. We'll be watching it closely. Most likely we'll be trading it as well tomorrow morning at market open. We go live every single morning at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you want to watch me trade live, it's that second link in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you all. Hope to see you there in our live session tomorrow. If I earned your thumbs up, hit that like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.